Hi, this is Alex from devstories.eu. Pydantic Data Validation, Episode 10 of 20. Sometimes your incoming data is so messy that standard parsing fails the moment it touches your model. You have to intercept and sanitize the raw input before the framework even tries to read it. This is exactly what pre-processing with before and wrap validators allows you to do. Pydantic normally does an excellent job of coercing data into the right type automatically. But if the fundamental shape of the data is completely wrong, coercion fails immediately. A before validator is designed for this problem. It is a function attached to a field that executes before Pydantic does any of its own type checking or conversion. It receives the raw, untouched input exactly as it was passed to the model. Consider a scenario where your model defines a field that strictly requires a list of integers. However, you are consuming an external API that incorrectly sends this data as a single continuous string of numbers separated by commas, such as the string 1, 2, 3. Pydantic expects an array, sees a single string, and rejects it with a validation error. You fix this by writing a before validator. Inside your validator function, you look at the raw input. You check if the value is a string. If it is, you split that string at every comma, which creates a list of individual string characters. You do not have to convert those characters into integers yourself. You simply return the newly created list. Pydantic takes over from there. It sees the list it was expecting, runs its standard internal coercion, and turns those string values into integers for you. You only needed to fix the structural shape of the data. That covers inputs running before the main logic. The next tier of control is the wrap validator. Wrap validators are the most flexible validation tool Pydantic offers. Instead of just running before the validation step, a wrap validator literally surrounds Pydantic's internal validation engine for that field. When you write a wrap validator, your function receives two arguments. The first is the raw input data, just like the before validator. The second argument is a handler function. This handler represents the core Pydantic validation and coercion logic. This is where it gets interesting. You decide exactly when or even if that handler function runs. The logic flow is entirely in your hands. You can inspect the raw input and modify it. Then you explicitly call the handler, passing it your cleaned data. Pydantic runs its internal type checking on what you provided and returns the fully parsed value back to your validator. You can then modify that parsed value again before passing it to the final model. Because you control when the handler executes, you can place it in a standard try-except block. If Pydantic's internal validation throws an error, you catch it right there in the wrap validator. You can log the error, alter the data and try again, or just return a safe default value. You can even write logic that skips the handler completely for certain specific inputs, bypassing standard validation altogether. Before validators sanitize bad input shapes so Pydantic can read them, while wrap validators give you total authority over the entire validation lifecycle around a single field. That is all for this one. Thanks for listening and keep building.